When researching the history of intergenerational mobility in regard to socioeconomic statuses within the United States, there are several things that remain constant throughout time. Men seem to be more successful than women, poverty is usually generational and inherited, and those born wealthy usually remain wealthy until their death. The intention of this study is to explain the generational blessing or curse of socioeconomic status and propose future research ideas to create pathways between various socioeconomic statuses. Who? Everyone is affected by intergenerational socioeconomic status in one way or another. Your current status may provide an avenue to experience the American dream, or it might provide a highway to a nightmare. This presentation attempts to focus on the lower classes, usually living below the poverty line, and explain the cause of intergenerational socioeconomic status and provide future direction for instruction and research. Victims of intergenerational socioeconomic status do not feel the need to reach out to others for help with their situation. Understanding this hesitation to ask for help and providing public encouragement could help erase the generational loop. What? Intergenerational socioeconomic status describes how future generations are likely to continue in the same patterns set forth by their parents. Educational achievements are likely to be the same. Social class also factors into one's socioeconomic status. Where one goes to work will also likely be similar to that of the parents. Where? The focus of my research has been the United States, but researchers have studied the same patterns worldwide. One study found the probability of an American family maintaining the same status is higher than a Canadian family. The higher one's socioeconomic status, the more opportunities for success are provided by default, and the same goes for lower classes as well. COREX suggests that we provide equal opportunities to all socioeconomic statuses to help provide equal opportunity for advancement on the socioeconomic ladder. When? Before birth, influences from the environment begin affecting our status. We begin to adapt to the world before we're even born. Neuroscientific research has provided evidence that the physical makeup of your brain forms differently if you're raised in poverty. Using research to identify environmental specific triggers that encourage status repetition provide direction for future research. When variables that cause the opportunity gap are discovered, future plans can be made as to how to eliminate them. Why? The reason for this research is to identify and address influences on socioeconomic status. Understanding what causes a repetition of education level, income, and employment will benefit future generations by exposing avenues outside our current knowledge. Those living in poverty will benefit the most from the research because it will enable the opportunity to break the cycle of intergenerational poverty. First-person research would be helpful to be able to identify issues and provide resolution. How? Using information gained through research, educators and other publicly funded contacts can be trained to provide a bridge in the opportunity gap created by different socioeconomic statuses. The concept of viewing statuses that you are not from within them instead of as an onlooker provides precious insight and suggestions for adjustment. This graph shows the distribution of socioeconomic status based on parental status. As expected, the higher the status, the higher the likelihood that an advanced degree will be obtained. While it is important to remember that most people desire to be in socioeconomic statuses higher than that of their parents, it's highly likely they will achieve the same status. Cabrera and Lanasa suggest that in higher status homes there is more verbal communication regarding college and higher educational expectations. Since those in higher status are likely to have knowledge about the education process, guidance for their offspring can start at home, and students do not require educators to inform them of educational options available. Hurdles such as applying for college or finding funds to attend college are higher to those who are living in poverty. Research also has found that school guidance counselors are the main source of information for students living in their poverty regarding furthering their education. For obvious reasons, providing for your family is easier when you're in a higher socioeconomic status. Lower status homes have been shown to have a tendency to get lower grades on standardized tests than those from higher statuses. Parenting styles vary throughout the different socioeconomic statuses. Rosca and Potter stated the differences in parenting are most pronounced between stable middle class and stable working class categories. It is imperative to understand the various benefits and downfalls of each socioeconomic status and how they differ from one another. When parents actively participate in the student's education, a student's likelihood of pursuing higher education goes up. There is also a proven connection between parenting styles and a child's desire to obtain a higher education, showing how association with a higher status could potentially advance a child's adult status to one that is higher than his or her parents'. Exposure to a parent's job will often influence a decision the child will make later in life when choosing a career. Stresses experienced by the lower socioeconomic status can also negatively affect the relationship between parent and child. Parental influence has been proven to affect if a child will pursue higher education. Intergenerational socioeconomic statuses can be changed, provided healthy motivation and instructions are present. Parental exposure to college, even later in life, can result in higher percentage of students pursuing a higher education. When children and adolescents are exposed to poverty conditions, often they respond with poor nutrition, high rates of transience, drug use, crime, and other byproducts of socioeconomic disadvantage. Research has shown the tendency for status repetition through generations and the need for parental instruction on confirmed methods of successfully encouraging students to obtain a higher education. If a student experiencing poverty is exposed to an environment that encourages furthering your education, this experience may provide the motivation to educate themselves to follow the path to a higher status. Generational poverty is the ugly side of the socioeconomic coin. The frustration felt trying to change the generational status of a family while not having the tools required to advance is overwhelming for many parents living in poverty. Korak revealed how current parental income has a greater effect on determining the adult outcome of a child's life than their own hard work. He also emphasizes the polarization of the current labor market and explains how mobility between statuses becomes even harder. Wealthy parents tend to produce offspring that usually will maintain a higher socioeconomic status. This result is likely because of the availability of resources to invest in their children. The higher statuses often benefit from the lower statuses. Reversing this will require teaching future generations about equality. There are many contributors as to the reasons for poverty. Here we look at race and gender to investigate the influence on furthering one's education after high school. Race is not defined by genetics. Instead, the American culture has divided people based on the color of their skin since the country's inception. Savas states that categorizing people by emphasizing their visual features creates both race and racialization. Numerous studies have proven the gap between earnings of different racial backgrounds. Lichter expressed concern that the practice of diversity may cause more political conflict, encourage cultural judgment, and drive Americans further away from one another. The focus on race justifies racism, while ignoring the problem is an ineffective solution to the problem caused by our society. Hefner and Fitchett report that Black and Hispanic students score significantly lower than their white peers when controlling for socioeconomic status. Armed with this information, programs offering step-by-step instructions towards success with minorities can be created and distributed to promote the chances of minorities continuing their education and improving their status. Similar to race, gender also has influence on perceived success in the United States. As depicted in the graph, women are not equal to men when it comes to income. Rankin Herschel stated that families led by a single woman have an increased risk of poverty. As the graph shows, Asian have the highest income in both male and female categories. Next in line is white men and women, with blacks and Hispanics showing dramatically lower incomes. Encouragement to improve a student's position can come from various sources outside the home. Education is vital for teachers in low-income areas for ways to close the gap between the benefits of being a student of higher socioeconomic status and a student from lower status. Research has proven that educators have an impact on the future of low-income students. Future research on effective teaching methods in low-income schools would help provide opportunities for advancement through statuses. Parental support and education should also be examined to encourage, influence, and participate in the student's life to ensure higher education. Rewarding teachers on a merit basis instead of seniority can help encourage teacher and students relationships and promote a healthier outcome. Siblings also provide an additional opportunity for encouragement to further one's education. Community also plays a vital role in the path to higher education. Researchers are attempting to provide opportunities to all statuses instead of just higher socioeconomic statuses.